I wonder, first of all, as someone who has so much experience in this industry, but surely sees what's happened as completely unprecedented, how does your experience in Q1 and Q2 change your outlook for business in the COVID era?
It was a very big experience, and at first, of course, we were focused on our triple duty of care, taking care of the demands of our customers, health and safety of our people, and the business continuity. And we have been delivering a satisfactory result despite the circumstances. And we are also seeing a shift in how healthcare will evolve in the future. We see in that a validation of our strategy with a much stronger adoption of informatics, telehealth, enabling remote working between caregivers and also between hospitals, and of course, a direct doctor-to-patient relationship. We think that the pandemic will accelerate that because it's safer, it's more productive, it can deliver better health outcomes. What is also very much on my mind is the incredible job that all the healthcare caregivers are giving, and we have been standing right behind them throughout the first 2 quarters of this crisis.
Frans, thanks so much for joining us. Last time we spoke to you, your last results, you said there was a pickup in China you were going to start to see for non-virus related treatments in the second quarter, and then Western part of the world would follow. Are you seeing that trend now in parts of the United States and in Europe?
Yeah, indeed. Of course, the critical care equipment like ventilators, patient monitors, CT scanners follows right the peak of the pandemic in every geography. And currently we see very strong demand in the hotspots, in emerging markets, and of course in North America. On the consumer demand, we have seen a recovery of demand in China after the first quarter, but we are not yet entirely back to 2019 levels. Then followed Europe, where we've done remarkably well, actually, given the circumstances. And as the second quarter unfolded, we saw the demand starting to come back. Now, the 20% order growth that we had for especially our connected critical care equipment, plus the fact that for diagnosis and treatment, we still had a big order book, and the recovery of this consumer demand gives us the confidence that we can resume to growth in the second half of the year and still deliver for the whole year a modest growth rate.
So what does that mean for earnings as well in the second half, Frans? I mean, I know you expect improved profitability, but can you qualify or quantify exactly what you are expecting now in H2, Q3, Q4?
Well, of course, it's an uncertain period, and in the second quarter, we saw a 9.5% EBITDA. And as we look forward, we think that the results in the second half year will improve, and then if you take the full year, it can be just slightly above last year. And we have not quantified that. I think in its own right, delivering a black figure in terms of growth and profit expansion would be a very good achievement, and we are focused on trying to do that.
Frans, everyone's worried about a second wave. Are you seeing countries start to stockpile ventilators now to prepare for this potential resurgence in a second wave?
The demand for ventilators as well as for patient monitors and computer tomography scanners has been very strong. We have a huge order book that we plan to deliver also in the third and the fourth quarter. We see still orders coming in of geographies that do not have enough intensive care capacity. And I think it is also giving the insight to health ministers and care providers that you cannot wait till the last moment to build at least some degree of capacity. whether that's in PPE equipment or in scanners or in monitors or in ventilators. Across the board, I think people realize that it's important to invest in healthcare. And I'm very, very pleased to see this adoption of telecritical care. We won a big order with the Veterans Administration in the second quarter, a 10-year agreement to expand the remote care for veterans throughout the United States. And we saw in total 14 new large-scale strategic partnerships being signed in the second quarter, which is remarkable because of course, hospitals are very focused on the pandemic. Still, they want to invest in the transformation on how healthcare is being delivered, embracing cloud technology, informatics, so that people can work more safely and keep on supporting the patients, for example, in cardiovascular care, and not having them come to the hospital where, let's say, the infectious disease is being treated.
Frans, I want to ask you about your supply chain. Obviously, this has been a tough time, especially for smaller companies that you work with. How stable is your supply chain? How much help have you had to give those smaller suppliers that may have run into cash difficulties?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, we saw a tripling of capacity for ventilators. And we have all been on the phone contacting the suppliers in order to help them ramp up. Some suppliers were themselves in a lockdown area, and governments have been helping us to have those factories resume production so that the supply chain across the world could continue to function. We have been giving the messages to governments that please keep supply chains open. We have installed air bridges to make sure that critical components could find its way to our factories, for example, in Pennsylvania, United States, as it is so important that we were able to do that ramp up. So I'm very proud that we were able to triple the production of ventilators and more than double the production of monitors. It does point out, of course, the interdependence that the world has on thousands of smaller suppliers across the world. And I think we also have a responsibility to help those smaller suppliers navigate the crisis.